think we've got about 5 minutes for Bill and PA.
Great.
Bill, welcome to the show. How can we help you today?
Hi. Several years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, I was actually in an atheist meetup. And one of the people, typically we had 8 to 12 people, and just casually, this guy who, nobody would have picked him out in a crowd or anything, he just announced that he was asexual. And, of course, we were in mixed company and people who were, we were acquaintances, so nobody pressed him any further. I wanted to. I mean, I just didn't get it. I just don't. It's very difficult for me to relate to this in any way. I'm not, prejudicial against him. I just can't wrap my head around it.
Sure.
I wanted to ask him, and I'll ask you. You mean you don't have a sex drive? You mean you don't form kind of romantic relationships? You don't have? Do you masturbate? I didn't want to ask him that stuff. In a group, and I never. And there was a couple other times over a period of 4 or 5 years where he would also mention it. Just as an aside, he would just say, well, of course, I don't want to have sex with anybody, and then we'd just, because every now and then sex would come up, and he would just always mention that as a caveat that that's where he is. So I was just wondering what the nature of this was, and I hesitate to say cause, because then that infers some pathology or something, which I don't mean to. I don't mean to do that. So I just where is that? What's going on here anyway? Do you have any insights?
Yeah, well, I'm not ace myself, but I guess I'll go ahead and jump in here and say that I honestly have the same bafflement oftentimes when I am talking to folks that tell me that they don't exercise. It's one thing to tell me I have a hard time making time for exercise, or it's just difficult to get motivated, because I relate to that. That makes all the sense in the world to me. But when somebody tells me that they get no pleasure out of going for a jog, that they have no interest in lifting weights or these different things, there's a very real part of me that is just like, what? How? Why? Not because there's something like morally superior about the way I'm spending my mornings a couple days a week or anything else, but just because I desperately, desperately need that release. I desperately need the opportunity to strap on some sneakers. And if I get busy or get stressed out or don't make time or am having too much going on and I miss out on that, I stop being like the best version of myself. I feel a little bit messy. I feel a little bit disorganized. And I find my sexuality is often in kind of the same place. And yet I know tons of people that for whatever reason don't do any kind of regular exercise. I mean, maybe on occasion they'll find some opportunity to exercise every once in a while. And I think a lot of those things graph on to the asexual spectrum, because there are lots of folks that perhaps don't exercise on a regular basis, that perhaps only exercise every once in a while. Maybe they're really passionate or interested in it, and maybe they're not. And that's just kind of part of being a human being. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I kind of get that, except there isn't a strong drive to exercise like there is
in me, sincerely. No, I think that what we're talking about here is a little bit of the difference between your personal experience of your body and somebody else's experience of their body. And I don't mean to be difficult or to interrupt you, but I think you may experience a sex drive, and you may experience or not experience a strong drive to exercise. But I know that I do. And I have been told that in the future, my body may degrade, my body may shift or change. And certainly when I'm sick or when other things are going on, I feel a decrease in that desire and that drive. But when I am at my best, when I'm at my happiest, I know that I'm out jogging a couple of days every week. And I don't know that that's an entirely different way of experiencing things.
I completely agree with you. I'm 73 years old, and I exercise every day from 90 minutes to 2 hours. So I get that, and I agree. And I think basically the reason that people who don't exercise, just haven't done it. They haven't gotten into that routine. It does take a little self-discipline to get into an exercise routine. But then,
well, and it may not be a perfect metaphor, and I definitely don't want to dismiss that, but I know plenty of people that just don't necessarily have that same interest or that same desire in physical exertion. And I don't necessarily know that it's about a lack of like opportunity.
No, it's just that they haven't done it. I just think that they haven't. They just haven't. I think most people, once they get into regular, mediocre, not crazy. You don't have to be a long distance runner or anything, or run marathons. But that doctors have long said that if exercise could be shrunken into a pill or a capsule, it'd be the most widely prescribed medication on earth. Because of all the benefits it does. And I think once people start realizing those benefits, which I did. I was a very unathletic little boy. I was just a doughy, I looked like a manatee. And then once I started exercising, it just feeds off itself. It does everything for you physically, mentally.
Bill. Hey, Bill, I'm going to cut in here real quick, just because we want to keep the show on topic and we're coming up to the end of the episode. I think, honestly, the one thing I want to say to you is kudos for finding the right venue for having this conversation, right? And knowing, I don't want to put this person on the spot just because they identify as asexual. I don't want to interrogate them in front of acquaintances. I'm going to go to a place where they might have, answers to be more well equipped. So kudos to you on finding the right venue for this conversation. I love that. I do want to continue this conversation though at some point. So make sure to call back a little bit, a little earlier next time, and we will make sure to jump in with you right away if we see that you've called back.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thanks so much, Bill. Have a good rest of your night.
And I'll just kind of quickly point you towards the episode we did earlier in the summer with Misokissed. And definitely say again that I don't speak for the asexual community. I recognize that it's a imperfect metaphor, but I just have had too many conversations with too many people. It's one of I don't know about you, Billy, but it's one of the questions I always ask when I'm meeting a new client. What is your exercise regimen like, if any? And people are all over the spectrum as to whether they do it because they love it, do it because they feel they need to, or whatever else. And maybe it does increase the more you do it. I think sex can be like that to an extent, but also it's not necessarily something that everybody's going to be driven towards.
Honestly, I kind of loved your analogy because it does correlate very much between my sex drive and my drive to exercise. It's like in the right conditions, like if I have a routine and a place I like to go and like I'm in the zone, absolutely. If you come up to me in the middle of like watching a TV show, like, hey, you want to go exercise? No.
Fuck no. Yeah. Yeah. Well, exactly. I know we're No, please, Billy, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just like, with exercise, it was just always seen as a chore for me. And the Coast Guard is like, okay, we're going to run this much today. Like, okay. And it's because I had to run it. It's like, fine, I'll run my push-ups. I'll do my squats. I'll do all this other stuff. To me, it's just a chore. I did it for years and years and years, every single day. And it's just like, I know there's people that get the runner's high. I've never experienced that. I'm like, yeah, kind of jealous of it that you can get a high from it. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth noting just very quickly as we're trying to wrap up, Billy, that you had what, 5 years of military service and were expected to exercise pretty well every day at a fairly intense level, and it doesn't quite click for you. It's not the biological urge that you're driven by.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I know that I need to do it, and I used to be in a good routine, but it's been a while.
Fair to say.